that were projected for this year, and then it goes into 24-25 and 25-26. So those are all allocated there. The next section here, once we go through the revenue estimates, is going to be the expenditure reference. And if you look at the projections for 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26, you can see that they are outlined very clearly with revenues less expenditures.
Excuse me, Dr. Hill, would you mind reading the numbers or just the bottom line numbers?
The bottom line numbers, sure.
Reference up there so folks in the audience.
Yeah,
can
absolutely. So would you like me to go back to? I would love to. Thank you. All right. So then if we look at total revenue for that was projected 23-24, that total revenue is listed as $180,032,227 and no change. If you look at the 2024-2025 allotment, you see $193,565,831.40. And if you look at the projection for school year 2025 and 26, you'll see $196,042,163.50. So those there are the revenue estimates. Moving back into the expenditure estimates that are given for those same school years. Looking here at this school year, our total revenues after reduction, less expenditures, comes to less below average, so in parentheses, $8,447,206. When you move into the 24-25 school year, we're no longer in parentheses, so we're no longer below below zero. We are above zero, and we're at $1,970,562.35. And then for that following year, 25-26, we get up to $6,799,494.94. And that takes us through our our expenditures and our revenues. And now we're going to go into our estimated funding balance. That's you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're on page 7. You guys almost there? One more. It's all a bunch of graphs and spreadsheets, so the people that were not able to see that. So this is our estimated beginning fund balance. And one thing to note here is that we have learned quite a bit from OSPI in the work that we've done with them in regards to making sure this is really tight. So this is much closer and more precise. And that's why is that important? Well, when you go to the next page, which has the ending fund balance, it's able to help us project. Big point here is at the end of the 25-26 school year, we have set the budget to be able to hit that fund balance that's required by binding conditions of 10 million. We're actually at 10,030,000. So that's the big points there.
Thank you very much. Going on to page 9, please. All right, so these are our enrollment trends. So these are pretty solidly done with the information that we got from the demographer. And so this does show what's expected over the next few years by grade level. And then go to the next section, please. Based on those numbers for student enrollment, these give us our staffing levels. Those staffing level predictions do align with the number of students that are projected from year to year.
Okay, more graphs for me. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about cash flow, and these are some slides that you've seen previously. Some things to highlight in the cash flow. This is our current year, and you can see that the highlights across the top in yellow, that $5 million, that was what we borrowed from our capital fund, and you'll see later on the next page where we pay that back. And then also you'll see in a little bit different color yellow, the $600,000, that was having our apportionment, I've forgotten the word. Advance. Thank you. I was like, what is that Yeah, so we got an advance on our apportionment, and you'll see that that already goes back to neutral in July and August of this year. You'll see that that will go back so that our apportionment, we're straight on that. So now if we go to the next year, 24-25, you'll see that based on the work that we've been doing, we're going to be paying back in bright yellow that first loan from the capital funds. And you can see the interest that is accrued there. Now, you're also going to see when you look up above that, that we are going to be taking, our plan is to take another loan out from our capital funds, but it is much lower. So we're going in the right direction. On this one, we're going to take 2.5 versus the 5 million. As you look across the bottom, and I'm sorry, I forgot to say that on the first one, but you'll see that in red near the bottom, you'll see those months where we are sitting at a negative cash flow balance. But I wish we would go, you want to go back up one slide really quickly? There's less red on the second slide because we're getting ourselves caught back up. I think that's the big piece that you want to look at. Okay, now we can go ahead and go to page 13. So skip to the last page down here. Now, 25, 26, this is the year we're going to get it all put together. You'll notice that we are paying back that, that loan in November of 25 with the interest accrued, but you'll see across the bottom, we are now in the black. And you'll see that the at the bottom, smallest number at the bottom, it shows that, again, that ending fund balance that we are aiming for at the end of year, our third year of being in binding conditions.
Next page, please. All right, so this section here gives us just some additional details on reductions that align with the requirements that were presented by OSPI. So you can just see what the projected allocation looks like based on their request. And then next page, please. Oh, a little bit higher. It's actually the bottom of this one here. Oh, yeah, I'll talk about this one. Yep. So this is our evidence of K3 class size compliance. So OSPI wanted us to speak to this very clearly. So given the amount of money that we would lose if we had to allocate staffing, this is actually the fiscally responsible decision to move forward with the staffing as projected. So it saves us money to not meet this, which is a little counterintuitive, but it does. That's that one. It's terrible.
Okay, and then this is just explaining that we are projecting, and we've put in the budget that planned increase in insurance costs. They're going up. Everyone's feeling it. So we have also added that in to make sure that we're budgeting for that and we're ready for it.
And then here is, at this bullet is our outstanding legal claims. So basically, these are the costs that we can confirm are accurate as of August 31st, 2024, that were requested by OSPI. And after that is our update to food services. And so over the past few years, we have broken even in food services. This year, we were moving to a direction of having a surplus in food services. So moving forward, we'll be using that surplus to pay for things such as appliances, for example, freezers, et cetera. And that will actually bring us back to break-even point.
And then the last portion, and this is something OSPI really wanted to know and understand. We all feel it here, but we have been doing major reductions over the last 2 years. So you'll notice that the list goes up, but what this shows is that we have reduced 23.4 million over the last 2 years. And after that, if you scroll down, you'll see that there's a bulleted list of all of the different steps that we have taken to make those reductions over the last 2 years. You can keep going down. You'll see classified staffing, certificated staffing, district level leadership, instruction, and finance. So those are all the different things that have we've done over the last 2 years. And that is the end of the quick presentation. We know that we wanted to open this up for questions for you, and that's why this is a team presentation. We all are experts in certain areas. So thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, definitely let's open this up for conversation. Director Hoiby, would you like to start with any questions or comments that you have?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay. Director Michael?
So thank you both for tag teaming and taking this one on. Never fun to bring news like this to either the board or the community. So thank you for taking that on. So I just wanted to go back maybe a little bit more slowly through things. When we're looking at our revenue growth, it looks like the areas where we get growth comes from our local taxes. And I'm assuming that's really levy funds.
Right.
So without our levy, we would really be lost. It'd be a lot more difficult. And I just want to, make sure that we recognize that. Because I know it was a heavy lift for the community, and I don't want folks to feel like it didn't have an impact. There's other things that are happening in the district that are causing some of these other changes.
that work that was put in is really what's moving us forward.
Right, right. And then I guess I wanted to look through expenses a little bit. And it looks like we're anticipating increased costs around regular instruction. And I guess I'm just assuming that comes from cost of, and maybe I just need an explanation. I'm assuming since we're reducing staffing, there is some obviously increased costs because we're doing the cost of living
Correct.
raises and those kinds of things.
Yep,
Is
you-
that essentially where that number comes
Absolutely,
from?
absolutely. So that's important that we keep up with the cost of living the best that we can. So you'll see that that's really the major impact on the regular instruction line there. Mhm.
So we are reducing staffing as we noted in another slide here. So this coming year, and I think we probably should do enrollment trends first before we do staffing. So it's page 9 for us.
Okay. I don't know if you want to pull that. You could, if you can try to pull it back up first, but that's up to you. We're doing fine, but I know that the audience doesn't know what we're talking about. Okay, so question from page 9, go ahead.
So we obviously are anticipating decreased enrollment.
Mhm.
And at some point, I think it would just be interesting to hear from the demographer I don't know if the demographer gave us a report, just talking about why some of those trends exist.
Yeah.
I know there's lower birth rates. We're not the only school district that's experiencing declining enrollment. There's a host of reasons, right? But I think it would be, at least for me, I would find it interesting. I think the public might find it interesting as well, just to have a better understanding of what's happening and why.
And Director Michael, we'll reach out to the demographer to see if we can
Okay,
put that in place for the board.
I just think that would be helpful. And then notice, if I'm doing my math correctly, we'll do estimates. But an almost a 400 student predicted decline between this current school year and then 2 years from now. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to continue hogging time, but okay. Okay, so, and then for this school year, our actual reductions, and I don't have it marked, but our actual reductions in staff, let me find it for you. I don't have it marked. I don't know that it expresses it. Yeah, so I think I'm on page 10.
10?
But for this school year, our actual reduction in staffing is how many? So are we at 39 or 33?
33, correct? 33.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you're right. It's page 14. Okay.
Yep, okay. That's okay. You got it. You go to page 14, it'll show you the difference. Yeah.
Okay. And then we're anticipating another 16 next year based really on just enrollment trends.
Correct.
Okay. And does reducing that 33, and I don't need an answer right now, but I know the ESD did a report for us in January. I'm assuming it brings us closer in line with where we were kind of pre-pandemic staffing levels.
Yes,
Okay,
closer.
closer. Okay, but not quite there.
In terms of exactly how close, I would actually need to go back to that report, but I know closer, yes.
I know even if we're above where we were pre-pandemic, I'm not sure there's anyone in a building that would say that they have too many staff.
Right.
But okay, that's helpful to know. I think I'll stop for now and let my other board members get in on questioning, but would prefer it can come back to me if
Absolutely.
at the end.
I know you missed it, Carm, but you've been through this presentation. Do you have any questions or clarifications you'd like to?
And I got here kind of at the tail end of Kristen's questioning, and they were all along the same lines as mine. I don't really have any further questions right now, but
I have a couple comments. So if you go to page 8, please. So looking at page 8, if you look at the total ending fund balance, so at the bottom of our calculations there, and in 25-26, it shows that we're at $10,030,000, $31,000. And so I mentioned this before, that number makes me nervous because $30,000, $31,000 is I don't want to minimize, it's a lot of money, but when you're talking about a budget of 180, 190 plus $1 million, it's almost a drop in the bucket. And so there are factors that can sway that $30,000. So $30,000 is what?
It's a very small decision, right? 30,000 is literally a very small decision with that big of a budget. So we have to be careful. We're going to have to really watch what we're doing to get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally 3 students can make the difference.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about how many students make the difference, it's really up to you that drives this number. And when we're talking about the work that the demographer did, now correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that they provided a range. Correct?
Correct.
A range.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And
High, middle, low.
so how did we treat the high, middle, low in order to get to this number? Because again, this number makes me nervous.
We were extremely conservative. So we picked the lowest, and then I want to even say we might have gone a little under that. We don't want to put ourselves in a bigger deficit. If more kids come, it's a lot easier to move forward than it is to pull back. So very conservative.
Okay, so we went with conservative option and didn't put too much pie in the sky in there, for lack of a better term. So that this number, if it goes anywhere, it's likely to go up versus down.
That's our hope. Yes, we went the right direction to see it that happen that way.
I mean, yeah, because I mean, we got the number to $10 million, which is 5%. And going conservative, that makes me feel better on if you're going to choose a range. I think, but yeah, just looking at sometimes the elephant in the room has been that loan from our capital budget. So it's a $5 million. We did that in November 2023. And looking at the numbers here, it looks like that's going to be paid back November 24th at $5.278 million. So that's the $5 million plus $278,000 on top of that in interest.
Correct. We do have to pay ourselves back with interest. The good news is that we're the bankers of it. It's just,
Right. It's kind of like a 401k loan, I guess.
Correct.
And then at that same time, we're taking, I'm just kind of, from my understanding, recapping some of what you said earlier.
you bet.
We're borrowing again, and that'll come before the board, I assume, $2.5 million. And that will be paid back with interest in November 25
Mhm.
at $2.6 million. That's the interest included.
That's 150,000 in interest. Yes, because it was 2.5.
No.
Correct.
And that's really the point where we're free of our own debt and we're moving forward
And starting to truly go
outside,
plus.
outside of binding
Correct.
conditions.
Correct.
All right, thank you for that clarification. And then the last thing I had was when it comes to or second to last thing, when it comes to the food services, that's again, a lot of people think that when you say we have an overage or extra money, we have these accounts, or for lack of a better term, we have buckets that money can go into, but we can't use that money somewhere else. So a good example is the capital loans. We could take money from one place, but it has to be a board action to borrow from a place. But otherwise, you can't move money between those accounts. Food
Correct. But
Services is one of those where explain a little bit more?
Yeah,
why
that's
we-
one of our most restrictive budgets. It's very, very specific. So in regards to that particular excess right now, the way that we will make sure we don't lose that, because you do need to, it's a kind of a use it or lose it, if you will. We've purchased some sanitizers, some different, upgrades to ovens, things like that, that are all food service related out of our capital budget. So we can use food service money on that. So with that surplus, we'll be able to again, just balance things out. Capital's just a little more open and available than food services. So we don't project that we're going to have that same type of a surplus or an extra in the years coming forward. But if we do, we'll keep an eye on it and make sure we're taking care of it.
Awesome. And last question, you had mentioned in your presentation that there was particular focus from OSPI on the $24 million that we've cut over the last few years. And so you got a whole list of bullet points here. Why was there a particular focus from OSPI on, understanding what we've done? Why is this in here?
I can answer this one. So when we submitted our first plan, one of the things that they did not know or did not realize just how much we had cut. And we had to be very, very specific, just so that anyone reading the plan can understand. We're not coming at this just new. One of the things that the representative from OSPI said to us was, you need to tell the story of all the cuts you've made over the last couple of years. So in response to that, we put it in there.
So they can understand that we're not, I understand this correctly, so that we're not starting where many other school districts are starting. We've already been there, done that to a certain extent.
Correct.
That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Connor, any further? Beth? Back to you.
Is Director Davis online?
She's not online.
No, she's
Or
not.
if she is,
She's not feeling
as
well. Well, I know. Okay, so I would like to talk about class size and then finish up this year and then move into next year. And then maybe talk about what our plans are for kind of additional meetings moving forward as kind of all these budget steps roll out. And then I just want to note that I just added up $11.7 million of reductions between this coming school year and the following school year, added to the $23.4 million of reductions that we have made. It's $35.1 million over 4 years. That's a lot of money for anyone to absorb, I think. I'm sure a lot of you have read the Seattle Times article that talked about all of the school districts that are really in challenging financial straits right now. And we're not the only one. So if you haven't read the article, it's a good one to read. It's not great news, but it certainly, at least for me, points to more systemic problems with how we are funding schools. So elementary class size. It is, I think, something that everyone is going to be concerned about when we're looking at reducing staff the way that we are. There is a program out there and, legislation can be constructed with either carrots or sticks. It's a little bit of a carrot. And sometimes it doesn't feel like there's much of a difference, but the K-3 one is in theory designed as a carrot. If you meet them, you can get some additional money. Can you talk a little bit about where we've been historically, where we think we are going to be in the coming years, especially with those younger grades?
Absolutely. We're going to have Lori Knudsen go ahead and talk to this one.
All right, so last year we just missed the K-3 class size. And when you just miss it, it doesn't mean you lose all of the money that the state gives you, you miss a portion. So Susan, we missed it by just under 0.1 FTE, right, which was 32,000. Right, so we didn't lose all the money, but just a portion of it. The way we are staffed this year, well, getting prepped for next year, we will not make that K3 class size. And when we're looking at the class size, it's not just the classroom itself. It involves elementary specialists, substitute teachers, contract teachers as well. So that all that goes into the formula when you're figuring out that class size. We take our student numbers from the P223 report on a monthly basis. With our right now drop in enrollment, it is still our hopes that we will make that K3 class size next year.
Do we have to hit it across the board? Or if we hit it, you know, kindergarten, first grade, do you get a little bump or do you have to do it?
It's an average
K-
across the board. It's an average K3. Right? So you take all of K3 and you look at the average. Now, keep in mind, it's not just the class, right? You're looking at your special ed, you're looking at any substitute teacher, your specialists and contracted teachers as well. So you're looking at all K3 across the board.
And have we historically, I feel like that's for us relatively low in those younger grades. Have we historically ever kind of hit those numbers before?
We have.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just missed it last year. And right now, the way we're staffed, if you're to look at it right now, we're not going to make it next year. Our hopes with the continuous drop in enrollment that we do make it.
Okay. It was just at a senior event and they post former yearbooks and I of course was counting kids in classes
Right.
and counting, you know, 24, 25 in those younger grades. And so I obviously didn't know that you need to include the specialists and all the other people.
Right. And it's
Okay.
across the board. So we may have some classes at, 25, 26, and other classes might end up at 18, 19. So it's that average across the board.
That's helpful to know. I
Okay.
appreciate the additional information about that. So class sizes this year, I think one of the things that would be helpful to understand, and I guess one thing that I was wondering about, because of course, news is out that in the following year, we're looking at reductions, and looking at closing buildings. And I guess one of the questions, there's a lot around that, but one of the questions that I had, I know sometimes it's challenging to balance out those class sizes in a building because kids don't come in neat bundles of 17 or 20. Is there the possibility with consolidation that in a weird way, it makes it easier to maybe hit those targets? I'm not sure if I'm asking my question clearly, but
Can you rephrase your question again? I just want to make sure I'm answering exactly what you're asking.
I am wondering if we have more first graders and more kids in a building, if it makes it easier to get to those lower class sizes because you don't have, like 50 over here in one building and 30 over here in another building. You've got maybe all 80 of them together so that you have, maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, but that you have, because of the greater numbers of kids in one building, it's easier to get those kind of more consistent class sizes.
Right. It's always, I think, going to be our goal, no matter what,
Okay.
to get as low class sizes as we can. And when you talk about the closure of schools as well, we will be looking at where are spaces in the other schools,
Right.
right? And then how can we disperse to try to keep those class sizes as low as possible?
And then feel like I'm hogging everybody's time. So I guess I'd like to hear just a little bit more about what, we have some targets to meet from OSPI and just plans that we have for budget type meetings moving forward for this year. Obviously, the news is out about potential school closures. even though that's not something that we're considering for this school year, certainly for the following school year, you know, folks are concerned, and that's obviously not something that we do lightly by any stretch. Based on the things in this report, it feels like we have done almost everything, if not everything we can do to avoid getting to that spot. But could you just talk a little bit more about like timelines and plans, both for this budget year, but then importantly, if we get to the spot where we do need to close buildings, kind of what that looks like or what you're thinking that looks like?
So tonight, what I'm gonna do is make the recommendation to the board of the schools that we may consider closing and that I believe that we should close. Then on top of that, actually, what we have planned is we're gonna have a couple of meetings so we can lay out the entire timeline for the board. So I was not thinking of doing that tonight because we have a year. However, we will have our plan together in terms of specifically how it's gonna go with timelines very, very soon for the board.
Okay.
In terms of the things we need to do to make sure we meet that $10 million threshold, so there have been a lot of cuts. We just recently announced furloughs. The executive team, that we're gonna take 9 furlough days and our directors are going to take 3. All these things are on the table because we have to get to this point. And there is no comfortable way to get there. There is no easy way to get there. We have to make cuts just like our peers all around the state. And we will.
I appreciate knowing that. So I just want to, you said that district leadership staff are taking 9 days of furlough, so that's unpaid days.
Yes,
this-
ma'am.
This coming school year.
Yes, ma'am.
And, okay.
And that's on top of all the other cuts that we're making. So all these things are on the table because we have to get to this point. We can no longer do what we've been doing in the past that's not getting us to the fiscal place we need to be. We have to make these cuts. Folks have argued that we needed to make more cuts years ago. Well, the bill is due, so to speak. We have to do this. We have no choice. The choice to not do the things to make these cuts and get to this $10 million threshold, the costs far outweigh any benefits.
Well, I appreciate your leadership and that of the team to be willing to do those furlough days. I know that it comes as a cost to all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then thank you too for just your commitment to outlining a process for folks. I think, when that news hits the community, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And I think, we've talked about this once before. You can solve the math problem in the kind of the black and white stuff, but it has real impact on people's lives, on children's lives, on people's careers. I've been in both of the schools that have been talked about, at least the elementary schools that have been talked about. And they're just such a part of their community. They create such a strong community. So it's really hard to be able to consider those things. I know it's not anything that any of us take lightly.
And then when it comes to just schools, I know my team knows how much I think about just the history of a place. When I say that this is not something that we took lightly, it's not even something that we want to have to do per se. But if we're going to hit this $10 million threshold, these are the things we have to do, just like our peers throughout the state.
I don't know that I have more. I have.
Just obviously I was in Texas for a good bit of time, kind of on a what I call as a sabbatical. I try to unplug every year for a couple weeks. I was reading a newspaper article because I didn't have my phone, and this is a discussion that people are having not only all around Washington, it's all over the nation. I I read a thing, it was just 2 weeks ago, DFW has 4 different school districts who are closing schools due to declining enrollment and budgetary issues, is what they said.
Sir, is that Dallas Fort Worth?
That's Dallas Fort Worth. Yeah. So I think this is a nationwide conversation that's taking place, and definitely it's a Washington State conversation that's taking place, and right now it's a Marysville School District conversation that's taking place, and the fact that it's nationwide shouldn't diminish obviously the work that we have to do here in this conversation and the work that the community has to do. But I just wanted to point that out that it's happening everywhere. I mean, this isn't an isolated incident. So yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so thank you for your presentation and for the information from the leadership team as well. Right now, it is 5:40. We're going to adjourn the work study. We will be back in 20 minutes for our regular session at 6 p.m.
You.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
All right, welcome everybody. If you could please take your seats. All right, we're going to get this meeting started at 6 o'clock on the 3rd of June, 2024. I call this regular session meeting to order. And the first thing is to excuse Director Davis. She has come down unfortunately, with COVID, so she can't be here tonight. Next, we've got the flag salute, and Director Krebs, if you mind leading us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Director Krebs. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and the water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, their stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. At this point, I would move on to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item F on the agenda, Superintendent's Report. Presenter Dr. Zach Robbins, Superintendent.
Thank you, sir. President Reinhardt, members of the board, Zach Robbins for the record. The first thing I want to do is just clarify the furloughs that are going to happen. So the superintendent will take 9 days furlough, executive directors and directors will also take 9 days furlough, and exempt and non-rep will take 3 days. So I just wanted to clarify that and make sure that's clear. Congratulations to the student athletes who participated and excelled at state competitions, competing in track and field. Maya Velasquez and Gianna Frank from Marysville Pilchuck High School, and Sean Etheridge from Marysville Getchell High School. Competing in golf, Lincoln Pablo and Terriana McLean from Tulalip Heritage, and Brody Maddock from Marysville Getchell High School. Maya Velasquez won the state high jump title, becoming Marysville Pilchuck's first female state champion in its 54-year history, and the second athlete in MP's track and field history to be a champion. All of you students, congratulations. This past week, the district shared information about school closures and consolidations for the 25-26 school year. As the earlier communication outlined, I am recommending to the board that Cascade, Liberty, and Total Middle School be closed and consolidated. The decision to recommend school closures to the Board of Directors was not made lightly. A number of factors were considered: educational and fiscal impacts, the age of the schools, deterioration of the school facilities, enrollment declines, and the degree to which these older schools align with current building codes all play a factor in these recommendations. We have notified potentially impacted school staff in person. It's important to note that school closures and consolidations does not mean a loss of jobs. Our staff will follow the students, ensuring a smooth transition. Students will be placed in elementary schools closest to their home addresses, and boundary adjustments will be made as necessary to reflect the change. To be clear, no school closures will occur next school year, the 24-25 school year, but they will be completed after a year-long process with closures and consolidations scheduled for the 25-26 school year. This process will include planning and preparation, community meetings, and opportunities to learn more, with final approval from the school board on these recommendations. And that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins. All right, next we have communications and reports. And this is a fun one. We got our school board student representatives recognition. Um, these students, Dominic Bloom, James Faria, and Cheyenne McGilliton have spent an amazing amount of time outside of school, joining us in our meetings and playing an integral part. And they're part of the first wave of student representatives that that we've ever had. And so with that, I would like to, on behalf of the Marysville School District Board of Directors and Superintendent Dr. Zachary Robbins, we thank you for serving as a student representative for the 2023-2024 school year. Your contributions and participations have made a positive impact on the school district and its schools. So James, you can kind of represent the group, but thank you so very much for all of your participation and your interaction with us here at the board level. So with that, come on up. I'd like to give you a message. You're not Cheyenne. There's yours. Thank you. Thanks again, James. All right, so we got upcoming events. Jody Runyon is not here, so this is going to be presented by Director Hoiby.
Hello. So June is here, the end of the school year. I just want to point out the graduations. Tulalip Heritage is having their graduation at the Tulalip Gathering Hall at 5 o'clock on June 5th. And then Legacy, MP, and Getchell will be June 7th at Angel of the Winds. And our last day of school is on June 14th. That's all I have.
There's the list that she's looking at is posted on our website, and there are quite a few different events, from choir events to graduations, to graduation walks all over the place. So I advise that you all go and take a look and see what you can attend. There's a lot going on. Let's go back up a little bit on the agenda to the prior bullet point of department updates. And let's start at the far end. Thank you, Alvin.
There we go. Good afternoon, Alvin Cooper, Human Resources Technology. In technology, we have been winding down, preparing for our summer and collecting computers, cleaning them up, and it's quite a bit of work looking ahead of us. And HR, we are in our never-ending battle to assure that we have a permanent, not permanent, but stable workers, sorry, lack of better words. Been working with our administrators association to make sure their contract is taken care of for the 24-25 school year. Like the other collective bargaining groups, I am hopefully we could get 2 years out of them, push for 2 years. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Courtney Hilligan, Executive Director of Equity and Family Engagement. And tonight I am going to call out the Native American Liaison Team. Over the past few weeks, they've really been working on doing end of year promotion, celebration, and graduation activities. And so that includes activities for students leaving specific grades here at MSD, as well as students leaving those same grades at other schools who happen to be Tulalip students who may not be enrolled in our schools. We recognize as our team that it's important to celebrate the accomplishments of all Tulalip and Native American students, regardless of whether they're ours officially or unofficially. So I just want to shout out the team for the excellent work they've been doing with that. And that's it.
And I can follow that up as Executive Director of Secondary Education. It is graduation, graduation, graduation. So exciting. just last minute details, making sure that all of our students are prepped and ready to go. I'm sure that they're feeling the buzz and they're doing a great job. So that is a lot of what's going on at the high schools for sure. Middle school had the opportunity on, I believe it was Wednesday of last week, to go to Wildcat Night, which was really fun down at Marysville Middle School. It was their first event. They're hoping to make it an annual event where it was a cultural celebration. We also had community agencies in there and different programming that students can engage in. The different, like CTE was in a different section with, they had little trinkets to give away. It was just everywhere you went was wonderful. The foods department made spaghetti and the sauce was amazing. I guess they had like 3 or 4 attempts and they were running around making people try it to get the perfect, and it was really good. So it paid off in that regard. So lots of fun going on at secondary right now.
Hi, Claudette Rushing, General Counsel. Hopefully you can hear me okay with my little mask on here. I'm always curious what exactly I should share. My job is so unique in that it's a lot of more confidential work, but I've been very busy with litigation management, primarily depositions have been on my docket the last few weeks. IEP meetings, helping other executives and the superintendent and the communications office as needed. I worked on a bunch of policies and procedures for you all from the May docket, and you should have those red lines to take a peek at. I'll be out next board meeting for a family vacation, and I'm headed to a conference on public risk management that I got a scholarship for. Spoiler alert, it's on the agenda later tonight. So I will not be at the next meeting, but I look forward to seeing you guys with a bunch of policies in July.
Good evening, Dr. Michelle Roper, Special Education and Student Services. The last Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, or CPAC, meeting for the school year will be this Thursday, June 6th, where the topic of focus that parents requested will be special education and student discipline. So we look forward to seeing parents there. Extended school year and compensatory services are being organized for the summer. These services will take place at Marshall Elementary. If parents have any questions about these services, we would welcome them to reach out to our department. And just wanted to remind everyone one more time about the Wellness Carnival for June 15th from 3 to 6. And we'd like to thank Hope for Homies and the Tulalip community for their partnership with this event.
Thank you. Lori Knudsen, Executive Director of Elementary. As we wind up this school year and start planning for next school year and look at the school improvement plans, I want to highlight Allen Creek tonight for their improvement in attendance. Between their office staff, teachers, administrator, parents, and sometimes even their broader community outside of school, this year they set a goal to improve student attendance rates across subgroups. Since January, they have seen attendance rates steadily increase month over month. They believe the increase is due to a strong Tier 1 focus, creating a school climate that welcomes students, as evident by our Panorama survey results. And the result of Tier 2 evidence-based interventions that approach truancy and non-attendance from a student-centered and solutions-focused mindset. Their attendance team, composed of our attendance secretary, school counselor, assistant principal, meets weekly to monitor student attendance data and plan for phone calls, home visits, positive incentives, and community engagement board meetings. So again, I just want to highlight Allen Creek Elementary this evening for the improvement in their attendance.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And before I move on to the next item, I also need to excuse Director Michael. She is at the awards assembly for her seniors at MG tonight.
Dominic is also there.
Is that?
Dominic's also at that. Yeah.
Yeah, for good reason. Excuse. Awesome. Okay, and moving on, we are going directly into hearing of business of visitors. For policy 1430, the board requires that those addressing the board be residents or employees of the district or the representative of such residents or employees. Parents or guardians of students enrolled in district schools or employees of businesses located within the district. Speakers are asked to present their name and resident city. When they make public comments in person or remotely, each individual has up to 3 minutes. Individuals wishing to combine their time must sign in on the speaker's clipboard. To combine time, parties must be present. A maximum of 2 people can combine their allotted time for a total of 6 minutes. The maximum time allotted for the hearing of business of visitors per agenda is 30 minutes. Complaints or charges about employees are not permissible during public comment. These issues are to be addressed to the superintendent in writing. And with that, we'll go right into those who have signed up. And Ron, I see you're here. Want to come up?
My big concern when the overriding concern question, how can we create engagement in classes according to teachers I talked to, the biggest impediment to learning. Parents of disengaged students tend to be disengaged. They're doing very well. But test score data is being torpedoed by disengaged students and parents. Test scores are either high or low, with the middle shrinking. We are essentially upending the bill. As a result, more and more resources are needed to help the disadvantaged students, but our state and have not and will not provide. In our community, there continues to be bitter undertones and attitudes towards our schools, and in most cases to education in general. Too many negative voices do not see the value and importance of education. The middle class is shrinking and increasingly hard to access. A high quality education for all students is the best way to access the middle class, but we are not supporting this in Princeton or in Washington State. Just as the bell curve in test scores is being inverted, so is the economic curve. But in this case, it's being skewed towards the poor. It's very possible to get an outstanding education here, but students who do almost always have engaged, involved, supportive parents. Students lacking this advantage only have our schools for help, but we lack the resources. This is the biggest inequality in our system today, and ultimately the biggest danger to our democracy. How can we generate community understanding and support? Even the supportive parents feel like, hey, I'm doing my job with my kids and now I have to shell out more because other parents aren't doing theirs. Nope. Quite a dilemma we're wrestling with. Instead of turning inward and building our individual castle walls, we can turn outward and lend a hand. Isn't this what our country does in times of need? Why is that not happening here?
Thank you, Ron. Good to see you again. Nancy Harvey.
Thank you. Nancy Harvey, community member. I live near Cedar Crest School. I understand that it is necessary to close 2 or more schools to get to a balanced budget. I understand that students and families survive closures because in 1959, after my 3rd grade year, the old Sunnyside School was deemed a fire trap and was closed. I finished elementary school at Cascade. The old Sunnyside School was not just my school. My father and his 5 siblings attended it from 1st through 8th grade. That's 48 family years of schooling there before my 3. My father didn't rant or rave. He didn't moan or groan. The building was being retired to provide a safe school for me and my sister. I had hoped that the 2 main criteria used for selecting schools to close would be safety of students and staff, and 2, cost to maintain and operate buildings. I'm not sure that's the case. I don't think the community can be sure of that either. Where do we go from here? I can only tell you what I hope to see from the district. Numbers. What does it cost to run the 3 most expensive schools? Numbers. How much money will be saved per year for each of the schools proposed to be closed? There's a need to be careful on this one because some costs will remain. School grounds will need to be kept up and the heat will need to be left on so you don't start having mold issues. My point is that closing a building to students doesn't bring the cost to 0 unless the district sells the property. Also, the students will still need teachers and the rest of staff at the new school they go to. If a school closes, then that should mean no students on that campus. I have read that if Totem closes, Legacy and 10th Street will take over Totem's campus. That isn't closing an expensive school building, but kicking out one group of students for another. There have been rumors that the Tulalip tribe would like to have their own school district, and I would like to hear from someone in the tribe about that issue. Is that happening and what's the timeline? There are other options to kicking Totem off its campus. If Legacy and 10th Street must move, then Legacy could go to MP or MG and share space with other students and still continue their program. Space could be made available on Totem's campus. We could share it with 10th Street. I'm about out of time, so I will stop there. Thank you.
For whatever part that you didn't finish, you can submit and we'll read it. Next up, Mike Ray.
I have 3 minutes. I could talk for hours. People that know me know that. Anyway, good evening, Dr. Robbins and school board and cabinet. My name is Mike Ray. I live in Marysville. I'm speaking as a Totem staff member and a parent of 4 students who went through the Marysville school districts and as a Marysville resident since 1967. I actually attended Marysville High School where I teach now at Totem back in the 70s. I'll just say that. So I'm older than you. Anyway, in fact, if you go in the R building of Totem Middle School, at the end of the R building, there's a stone there that I played in the band, my twin brother in the band that they laid that stone. So I've been around for a while. Anyway, I've been teaching at Totem for 25 years. I subbed for 10 years in the district before that. I know the community through its schools. I'm very disappointed and saddened to hear the possible closure of Totem Middle School. And I'm really saddened about that. We as a staff have worked very hard at Totem to positively impact students, whether it is academic, social, emotional, or relationship building. I have taught special ed students in my career at Totem the whole time. During this time, the Totem special ed team has been at the forefront in the district middle schools. I would give some examples. A few years back, we did full inclusion in special ed at Totem, and we did it for 6 years. 3 of those years, we made AYP, adequate yearly progress, the only middle school in Marysville that made that. Okay? And I'm proud of that. And my team was proud of that. And also right now, our team is doing leveled reading, leveled math in our resource rooms. And I'm concerned because if we close Totem, what happens to our team? We're a cohesive team right now, the best special ed team in the district. I would say that. So I'm concerned about that. Let's see. So anyway, I'm just concerned about that. What's going to happen to us when we break up the team? If we have a good team, why are we doing that? One of the things I have a question for is the retrofit of Totem is happening this summer, but they're going to close it. That doesn't make sense to me. So think about that when you make decisions about the future of education in Marysville. I want it to continue on. You know, I don't have grandkids, but I want it to continue on for my nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews that live in Marysville. Anyway, thank you.
Mike. Next up, we've got Chris Davis.
Donate my time.
I have a second one too. Hi, my name is Amy Hill. Just a side note, I'm graduating as of today, my children from Marysville School District, and I'm a proud parent to have done that. And I'm proud of this district. Until I stand before you today on behalf of the Marysville community to address the critical issues our district is facing and to emphasize the importance of reestablishing trust between the school board and our community. The school district once likened itself to a large ship, asserting that once it veered off course, it takes considerable time and effort to steer it back. Well, I think this analogy is fitting. It also underscores the need for a persistent and focusing effort from both the school board and us, the community. Reestablishing trust between the school board and the community is paramount. Trust is the foundation upon which we build our collaborative efforts to improve our school, support our teachers, and most importantly, provide the best possible education for our children. We all know that passing levies and bonds is essential for the financial health and the growth of our district. However, without trust, asking us community members to support these measures is an uphill battle. When the community lacks confidence in the school board's ability to manage resources responsibly and make decisions in the best interest of our students, we cannot expect them to vote favorably in funding. All right, to the members of the school board, here is what you must do to gain our trust. 1, transparency. Be open about the challenges we face and the steps being made to address them. Provide clear and regular updates on your progress and decision-making progresses. Number 2, accountability. Own your past mistakes and take accountability for them. Clearly outline what went wrong and how similar issues will be prevented in the future. Number 3, community engagement. Actively seek input from parents, teachers, and students. Create forums for open dialogues and genuinely consider their feedback that you receive. Consistency. Follow through with your commitments. Show us that your words are backed by actions and that you are dedicated to the long-term improvement of this entire district. Number 5, collaboration. Work closely with our stakeholders, including teachers, parents, and community leaders, to develop and implement effective solutions. In conclusion, to the school board, act now. Be transparent, be accountable, engage with the community, stay consistent, and collaborate effectively. If you cannot do these things, then you should seriously consider resigning. Only by taking these concrete steps can you begin to regain our trust. Our children and our community deserve better, and it is your duty to deliver it. To the superintendent and the executive board, we as a community demand transparency, accountability, engagement, consistency, and collaboration from you as well. Tonight, you stated that you have 1 year to share your plan for school closures. That is the farthest from transparent. Not taking overload into your consideration tonight in your budget is not being accountable. Not listening to us, the stakeholders, is taking your community engagement to an all new low. I do give you credit on your consistency though. You consistently deceive us, the community, at every turn. Well, we all know you do not collaborate, so I will end this with this. Our kids deserve better than this.
Debbie Harris.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Harris. During the last meeting, during the board wrap up, there was a comment that was made by a board member. The comment was, we're in a better position than we were last year. Clearly, that thinking is part of the problem. Things are most certainly not better for our staff or our community as a whole with regards to the Marysville School District. I've been involved with our schools on some level since 1989 as a parent and volunteer for more than 40 years as an employee. The majority of that time, I was also part of our SEIU 10-month union leadership, including serving as a president. That role included being part of contract bargaining teams, meeting with HR, and with our superintendent. I share the many frustrations of our staff and community. The failure to communicate with staff and families, the lack of transparency and poor decision-making are just a few of the areas that have led to the ongoing media presence for this district. We keep hearing the administration point to COVID or failure of one levy, run twice, as reasons for the dire circumstances we're in. However, under this current administration, things have gotten worse, far worse. The votes of no confidence presented by our two largest bargaining groups seem to have been completely ignored. There seems to be a very clear conflict of interest represented on our board and administration, as well as unqualified administrators and blatant mismanagement, having nothing to do with COVID or levy problems, and our students are paying the price. Morale is lower than we've seen in more than 30 years. We've continued to lose amazing staff to neighboring districts who support their employees and pay more. Public schools are vital and benefit individuals and society long-term. Access to public schools is crucial. Agendas contrary to that are harmful and don't belong. Those agendas are best taken elsewhere. Our students, families, and staff deserve so much better. They deserve a leadership who works together to make MSD the best that it can be. The time for change is now. I'd also like to request that written comments that were submitted be read aloud. Most of us love a good read aloud. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Karen Bloom.
Hello, my name is Karen Bloom. I am the mother of two Marysville School District children. I'm changing directions just a bit, but it highlights how some of the programs are being affected by what is going on. I am also the founder of the Marysville High Cap Parent Advisory Council. I'd like to let you know that I have an update since the last High Cap approval of the procedure and plan, and that is that there is no update. We've heard nothing. There have been multiple requests from parents, and we have not gotten any update on where things are since May 6th, when this was approved. We have learned there will not be a second grade high cap at Pinewood next year, not from administration, but through the rumor mill or because teachers were informed, things are not going through the right path to get communication out. What are we doing with these students that are currently in the high cap first grade classroom? Are we sending them to Liberty? Are we sending them back to our home schools? And then are we going to make these children change schools again for the 25-26 school year if you decide to have high cap again at Pinewood or close their homeschool and middle school. We haven't gotten any plan for the middle school, even though this has been specifically requested by the board. We still only have high cap trained teachers at Cedar Crest. Are we allowing high cap children to transfer to Cedar Crest if they want? We asked for a high cap open house for the newly identified high cap students. We've heard nothing. We were told that we would be kept updated on the MSD 25 website high cap page. The last update was January 25th, 2024. Communication has been terrible. The lack of leadership is going to ruin another one of our strong programs. We don't need another task force. That was a joke. By the last meeting, there were only 2 people in attendance because everyone else gave up and didn't want to waste their time. We want a parent oversight committee with the director of the high cap program required to partner with us, not oversee us. We are the taxpayers paying your salaries. We are the people who voted you onto the school board. These are our children whose needs are not being met. You need to recognize that what happens in our schools has a lasting impact on these children. It directly affects the rest of their lives. The parents and teachers are once again asking to partner with the district. We know the history. We have experienced what works and what hasn't. And now I'm out of time, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bloom. Next up, we have Paul Galvin.
Well, thank you for the presentation there. My name is Paul Galvin. I am a parent of 2 going through the school district, and I also have 3 grandkids going through the school district, many nieces and nephews. A very vested interest in Marysville School District. My son was even offered the opportunity to go to Getchell as opposed to Pilchuck because he was in that window. And now he enjoys the fact that he's a 4-minute sprint on his bike or a 7-minute sprint on his feet in order to get to the front door because he's late to one of his classes. All right. So I'm going to go. My subject has kind of changed a little bit since I've been listening to the crowd, but I'm going to stay on subject because I was only given 3 minutes and other people offered me more time and I turned them down. So in order to keep this brief, I'll tell you that with my 4-year-old going to the school that my now 17-year-old went to, and when he went to that school, he showed up to class one day and half the school or half of his room, his classroom had caught on fire, and there was major repairs that needed to be done. This is a 6-year-old building. There's a lot of sense. There's a lot of common sense to not having students in an unsafe environment, and to evaluate a school 60 or 70 years ago, the OSHA rules, the LNI rules, the type of safety rules that were in place back then were deemed to be incredibly unsafe, to include asbestos, right? So many of these practices have changed since then. However, these schools, because they were built 60 and 70 years ago, are still safe enough for our students today. And I'm here to tell you that my 4-year-old doesn't need to be in that environment. Now, I understand that there's a lot of strife and a lot of problems about adjusting where students are going to school. And if we have room for them in other places, that makes sense. It makes a lot of good sense. However, the transparency apparently needs a lot of adjustment. Our teachers and our parents need to be a part of how that solution makes place. And it needs a good partner in the room. It doesn't need somebody to lead the discussion. It doesn't need somebody to lead the ideas. It needs somebody to bring the best out of 20 or more voices and from all kinds of places within Marysville. Yes, we need to build trust. We really need trust. We need our community members to go to bat for our kids, even without trust. Our community members is what makes Marysville. And if we have people touting that Marysville School District deserves no respect and no trust because we don't want them to have it, you're wrong. Our students deserve better than that. I appreciate our student representatives. I appreciate the work and effort that our district directors put into this. I appreciate all of you for being a part of these solutions. Be a part of tomorrow's solution by working today in a different way. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. All right, next up, we have Christine Cobb. Christine, do you have somebody donating? Nancy's donating time to you, so you'll be the final speaker.
Well, it's pretty clear. Let me first state I'm Christine Cobb. I am a union representative and a teacher at Pinewood Elementary. This is my 11th year in the district. My worst year ever, by far. It is atrocious working conditions, and it's atrocious for our students. And this has been brought to your attention all year. So as far as what you've heard this evening, clearly transparency and communication continues to be a huge issue that has repeatedly been addressed with the board, with the superintendent, and with the directors, and yet it doesn't improve. It doesn't seem like it matters what we say as staff, as community members, as parents, students, nothing changes. How long should you need to hear this before something actually does change? Do you ever actually do a deep dive into the budget presentations that are done? Do you look deeply at what they're presenting to you to really analyze it and see if it makes sense? Because it doesn't. It's false and it's inaccurate. I think that you should probably sit down and do a little deeper dive with some other people, maybe outside of your district leadership team, that have a little more insight as to what's correct. The deception continues and is out of control. Did you actually truly hear at the last board meeting that there's a 900% increase in claims against the district over the last 2 years? I'm deeply concerned about the rationale behind your recent financial cuts, particularly the decision to forego additional funding aimed at reducing K-3 class sizes. Did anybody look at what it's going to cost in overload to continue to have classes understaffed? Did you factor that into the budget when you made this decision to give up the K-3 lower class size mandate by the state? It is disheartening that such a choice was made without seemingly considering the significant costs of overload paid and the academic and social impacts of overcrowded K-3 classrooms. I think the state made that a mandate for a reason. Examining Mukilteel's approach to a $6.4 million budget cut, they chose to eliminate 10 teaching positions out of 1,015. 10. Whereas we are cutting 33 out of 626 teaching positions. They also chose to cut 4 administrative positions and have their administrators take furlough days. It's great to hear you're taking some furlough days, but you're still overstaffed. And there's still an awful lot of extra support staff for each of you because you need your own assistance. In stark contrast, our district has not made those administrative cuts and continues to put directors, executive directors, district admin ahead of the kids in the classroom that need the teachers and the paras to support them. Your poor financial oversight in failing to pay your portion of a claim has also now cost the district its insurance coverage. As a result of this negligence, we will be forced to pay higher premiums. That was good planning. Further straining our budget. Once again, it is the children who will be bearing the brunt of these errors, not the district administrators who made them, nor the board members, nor even your children. This mismanagement is a direct betrayal of the trust placed in you to safeguard our educational resources and prioritize our students' well-being. That's your job.
That's why you were elected. Moreover, our ongoing neglect of our multilingual learners is unacceptable. I am tired of your excuses. Money does not factor into it. They have civil rights. By understaffing the educators who work directly with ML students as, oh, that's right, we're cutting those positions this year. We are exacerbating the academic struggles and perpetuating a system that marginalizes them. This failure to support ML students is a violation of their civil rights. Board members, how do you reconcile this neglect? Can you rest easy knowing these students are being overlooked? Because I can't. I sit with them every day in my classroom and feel terrible. And I've been advocating all year for these kids. And yet you fail to do anything. When I get a meeting finally with Dr. Robbins after I file a complaint, I get 10 minutes. 10 minutes when I have pages of information to share. That's not really hearing a complaint. Your responsibility is to meet the needs of all learners, not just those that resemble you. Furthermore, the expansion of 10th Street and the co-op, which respectively, 10th Street has 2 ML students and the co-op has 0, highlights a troubling trend of institutional racism. This decision not only overlooks the diverse needs of our student body, but also perpetuates inequity within our district. I would like to draw your attention to RCW 28A. I won't continue with the rest of it. District school directors are responsible for ensuring staff assignments support the learning needs of all students with specific attention to high need schools and classrooms. Additionally, the establishment of curriculum standards, on and on, are upheld to provide an equitable and comprehensive education for every student. An equitable and comprehensive education for every student. Board, it is time to take decisive actions to correct these wrongs. Our students deserve better, and it is your duty to ensure that all learners, regardless of their background, receive the support and education they need to thrive. Stop passing the buck and start taking full accountability of serving our students and community members of Marysville. Step into schools and meet these kids that are falling through the cracks, not being supported. It is your role and responsibility as overseers of our education system. Your duty is to ensure that those students' needs are met with integrity and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. We had a couple other speakers that we're not gonna have time for. If you could please submit your comments in writing, they will be added to the minutes. Additionally, we had some written public comments from Jay Human, Anna Palmer, Jennifer Phillips, Kim Capone, Karen Deep Donegan, Ismarai Delira, Amy Hill, Beth Rosales, Beth Nielsen, Mark Indribo, and Kelly Richards. Please know that your comments will be added to the minutes. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the prior meeting.
I'm going to make a motion to move the approval of the prior meeting, May 2024, the approval of those minutes to the next meeting. I think there's some T's and I's that still need to be crossed and dotted.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to move the approval of the regular session meetings for May 2024 to the next session. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation or discussion around that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we're moving into board action. So we have a policy for first reading presented by General Counsel Claudette Rushing and James Faria.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon or evening, everyone. Third time here. I'm very happy to co-present with our own board member, James, who did the real legwork on this policy. So thank you for all of your hard work. It's been a pleasure to work with you this year, and I'll let you present your policy.
Okay. So I already did a presentation on this last meeting, but I'll go over some of the points again with more of a focus on the specifics, and I'll take some more questions. So I revised policies 1250 and 1250P, which are in regards to students on governing boards, so student representatives. And so I'll just go over some of the main things I changed. So main thing is I added an advisory vote. So basically, at the beginning of the director vote, the board president will look over to us student reps and ask if we want to do pro, con, or abstain as an advisory vote. So then I also specified that schools would select students to send to the board for interviews. Since the people working with students every day would be the best people to know who would be good board reps. Currently, we do not have any candidates lined up, so we need to get that done, and this should help move that process along because it gives direction for get to the schools and get them to pick some people to send to the board for interviews. So I'm hoping to see that by at least before October, because I feel like student representatives are very important, so we need to get that done as fast as possible in the next school year. And then smaller thing I did is I added a requirement for halftime enrollment. So basically, if you go if you're enrolled for less than half time, then you are ineligible, because we really need people, reps, to be in the class every day with other students, interacting with other students, seeing what's going on in the district. So this is specified, like SNILE people can still go because they're go to school halftime, but if you're going running start only 2 periods a day, then you're just really not in school enough. And then I also added a point under the responsibilities that says students rep should work to inform the student body about things going on in the district and work to receive more feedback from students. In the future, this should foster more communication and make rep sort of a liaison between students and the board. So this year we were kind of supposed to do that, but this should hopefully clarify it and get it to happen more in the future. So student reps can tell the student body like what's going on with the district, what's going on with the board, and then we can get more feedback from the student body to give to the board. So yeah, that's just a brief overview. Any questions or after the motion?
Well, first we need a motion.
Have any legal or other questions? You've got a team here, a package duo, if you will.
We'll make a motion and then we'll have a discussion, and that's where our questions will come in. I move to approve policy number 1250 for first reading.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and now we can move into questions, comments, and discussion.
I also wanted to note that you fixed some grammatical. Huh? What?
I said Director Davis, and she's not even here. Director Hoybe, please.
Like, what did I say? The grammatical errors that were in there.
I saw that too, Director Hoybe, former English teacher, former high school GT English teacher. I was so excited that those got fixed.
I know.
Yeah. I mentioned that in my last one, but I just skipped over it for this one.
No, I just wanted to make sure that that was brought up again because that was pretty glaring in there.
Yeah, they were pretty bad.
But thank you for your effort on this.
Yeah, first, obviously I want to appreciate the work that you did on this. I know you spent a lot of time on this, and it looks like you put a lot of onus on the student reps. You gave them a lot more responsibilities, and I think that's a great thing, that it's a student rep who's giving the student reps more responsibility, because you see it from your perspective, whether or not we're meeting the challenge that has been presented to you guys. So I do have a question about so the advisory vote, but is there still an expectation that there's some dialogue that student reps have discussion about kind of their opinions and
Yeah.
their school's opinions to, okay.
Yeah, of course. So the advisory vote is just before the board vote. So we have the regular comment period where we all have a discussion, share our questions and opinions and thoughts on the matter being voted. And then when the board decides to vote, then they will the president will ask the students right before they vote.
And I don't know if thanks for answering that. I don't know if I saw this in here or if it was a discussion that I had at a different time, but is there also an expectation of the student reps to kind of bring a school report, the state of our high school, depending on what student rep it is, to the board meeting in a frequent, interval?
So that is never specified anywhere. That would be a cool thing to see, but that can always be added in the future. I did add at the bottom here that so it already said student reps will provide a yearly review of their experience. But I added to the board to that. So hopefully that should be during a work study. Maybe we can present our experience in it and in the future, like recommendations to add to the policy. So, hey, we should add this thing where we give a report on how our school's doing, something like that. So that can definitely be done in the future.
Can I chime in on this one too, Director? Also, you could leave it as written and then just kind of call on the students to do that informally. Typically, the procedures don't have to be approved formally by the board, so you have some discretion in terms of how you envision those or implement them. I mean, much like we all do executive level reports for the superintendent, I think you could easily fold in the student school building reports.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah.
All right, thanks, James. Appreciate it.
Yeah, again, thanks for the work that you put into this, James. The revisions are good, and especially with how we select the students, I think that's a great idea. So that's where the students are and the people that the students interact with, staff, teachers, and whatnot, can make recommendations for students that we may miss otherwise. The point that I was going to make next was just cleared up that typically the board does not vote on policies. I mean, not on procedures. We vote on policies. Procedures are more operational in nature. So that's something that we can keep in mind. We can look at your red lines, and then as we go forward, move forward with the best practices that you're putting forth.
I tried to ask, I know she can answer my question, but I emailed Claudette first and asked what's the procedure for this, and then she directed me to the superintendent. And then they just had me present this and add it to the agenda. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, we're happy to see your red lines and your input on both documents.
He did great on the fly. I gave him very little notice, and this is an impromptu public speaking. So great job, James. Also, Director Michael's not here, but I will just say she always asks about this. I did check WASDA, the Washington State School District Association, and the changes from James are consistent with WASDA. So thank you for that. And he looked at their policies as well for his research.
Yeah, I can touch a bit more on my sources for it. So I use the the WASDA Student Rep Network recommendation to add the advisory vote, and then I took language from the Everett School District policy and added it to that portion describing the advisory vote. And then I looked through their policy to see if there's anything else I wanted, but main things were just I cleared some stuff up, fixed some typos, added the advisory vote, and did a couple other small adjustments. So yeah.
All right, thank you, James. Any more conversation from the board? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Your policy is moving past first reading.
Hooray.
I just want to say, I wish I could get a clap for a policy. Thanks, James.
All right, so next up, WIAA membership renewal, resolution number 2024-09. And you're not Rocky.
Close, right? No, good evening. Bonnie Walker, Executive Director of Secondary Education. I am speaking on behalf of Mr. Verbeck. And this is just a report that we need to update our annual resolution and MOU with the WIAA. This allows them to oversee our athletic contests, and we leave that ruling and those designations to them, and we follow those to create equity within the system and in the state. We do pay membership dues, and they help. They get our officials for us and things like that. So again, it's all about making sure that we play fair. We are this year excited to say that we are putting our middle schools back on the list that is being approved, as we are bringing them back in a smaller capacity, but we will use the WIA for those services.
Do we have a motion?
You doing it?
Yeah, I can do it. I move to approve resolution number 2024 tag 09 WIAA 2024 tag 2025 membership renewal.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Director Hoiby, comments?
I am happy that middle school sports are coming back, so that's a good thing to note here.
Our
But,
middle schools are happy too. They're really excited for the kids.
yeah, it's important.
It is.
No, I mean, I remember this last year and the year before that. So it's kind of one of those annual things that we need to button up to make sure that our students can play sports. So thanks for presenting it.
You bet.
Yeah, I remember several years ago when we had to sit down with acting superintendent Pearson and discuss giving up middle school sports so that we can get closer to our budget goals. And it was one of the harder decisions because sports play such an important part of many students' lives, many parents' lives, the community's lives, and our staff's lives as well, because a lot of the sports are coached by staff members. So it's really good that we're inching our way back towards middle school sports. But I do also want to give a big thank you to the Marysville Boys and Girls Club, as well as our YMCA partners who stepped in and provided sports opportunities and services in the meantime. That was another one of those amazing community symbiotic relationships that filled a void that we really needed to fill at that time. If there's no more, James. Oh, Cheyenne. Don't let me forget you guys. Any comments? Cheyenne, we got a document up here for you, by the way. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we've got the interlocal agreement for the City of Marysville School Resource Officers presented by Greg Dennis, Director of Student Safety, Security, and Facilities.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Robbins. Tonight I bring before you a interlocal agreement with the City of Marysville. As you know, they provide us with 2 school resource officers to cover all of our schools. They're not assigned to any particular school. They're just on call as needed to respond to any and all schools. With that, normally we pay for 0.75 FTE of each of the SROs. That this year would equate to $223,000 and change. If you remember a couple of years back, we did what we called a buy one, get one free. And the City of Marysville stepped up and gave us 1 FTE if we paid for the other FTE. So that saves us a net of about a half FTE. Based on our current financial situation, the city has graciously offered to go back to that model from 2 years ago. So we'll go with they fund 1 FTE, we fund 1 FTE. The cost for the contract this year will be $155,000 and change, which saves us about $68,000 from what we anticipated and budgeted for.
Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the 1-year interlocal agreement with the City of Marysville to provide 2 SROs to the district for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's open this up for some conversation. Director Hoiby.
Well, thank you to the city for helping out again, because obviously we need our students to be safe, and it's great that they're helping during this time.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say other than thank you to the City of Everett. I remember 2 years ago when they did the same thing, and it was helpful then and it's helpful now. So yeah. Oh, did I say Everett? Sorry. I just came from Everett. I was in traffic for an hour in Everett. So now Everett's on my, sorry, Marysville.
So it is Marysville.
Y'all knew what I meant.
Yeah, we knew what you meant. James? Diane? All right, thank you. Yeah, the SROs, our resource officers are invaluable, and I wish we really could get to a point where we have more. Because right now they're running around and they're being very reactive instead of proactive and being there to create those relationships with the students that is the thing that's so most valuable about our resource officers. So, my wish is that we get back to a point where we can have more than just the few that we have right now.
That would be fantastic. And I think Dr. Robbins and I have that conversation every year.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, last up, we have our financial report for April 2024, presented by Susan Halliday, Accounting and Budget Manager. Hi, Susan.
Hi. Good evening. I'm almost going to say good afternoon to board members and Dr. Robbins. I'm presenting the April financial report. April is a big month for our revenues because we collect a lot of property tax money. From here, we have the high of our year in revenue. Our enrollment is down just a small little bit. We collected apportionment of 9,400,000-ish. Our state grants, our expenditures are approximately what we anticipate, about 13.6 for payroll, and we're about 2.6 for accounts payable. We have a positive fund balance right now. Hopefully we can retain that, and then it'll go down a little bit and it should come back up again in July and August. For our capital projects fund, we also have a positive balance. Capital projects doesn't have the problems that general fund does. We are working with a totem seismic project. We have investment earnings and rental income coming in. Then on to debt service, where we have a nice fund balance in debt service. Debt service essentially pays our mortgage on the schools that we've built recently. Transportation vehicle fund is next. They buy yellow buses. We did pay for one yellow bus in the month of April. And then last but not least is ASB, and ASB is the students' money, and they're actively pursuing all sorts of fun, exciting ideas and going places, doing things, and student enrichment is good. That's my report for April.
All right, thank you, Susan. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the April 2024 financial report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. I know, you're in front of us again, put in this situation, so we appreciate, the work that you do behind the scenes. Yeah, and it looks like, I'm looking at April. Is it typically April? Obviously, it's typically the month of the year that we receive the most percentage of the distributed tax funds.
Yeah, we receive most of our property tax money in October and April. With the levy not going through, this is the first month that we've gotten a real significant amount coming in.
So it's the first time in a while that we've had a positive fund balance.
We've had a positive fund balance a little bit, but this is the first significant fund balance. If you look at the graph for our fund balance, there's a nice hill for this month.
Right. Thank you, Susan. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That concludes the board action section of the agenda. Our follow-up items, we have work study dates, board meeting dates, and upcoming events. June 5th is our commencement at Tulalip Gathering Hall, and that starts at 5 p.m. On June 7th, we have the commencements at the Angela Winds Arena. Legacy is at 1 p.m., Marysville Pilchuck 4 p.m., Marysville Getchell at 7:30 p.m. And June 17th, we'll have our next regular session meeting. And that moves us into superintendent comments.
No further comments.
Okay. And board comments.
I want to thank everyone that spoke about the school closures and, for me, I think that we need to listen to a lot of different ideas. In my mind, I know that these 3 schools were recommended, but that's to me not decided. Because there's a lot of factors and things that were brought up tonight that people had some really good points, and I just think there needs to be a lot of community input there. That's about all I have for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what you said, Director. I think, and I appreciate Dr. Robbins when you said that we would lay out a plan for community engagement around this topic. I think obviously this is one of the biggest decisions that a school district has to make, and so, I mean, even if your child doesn't attend that school, that's going to get closed, your student will still be impacted. So it has to be a community decision. And so I look forward to the opportunity to meet with the community. Again, I appreciate everybody coming out and staying for as long as you did. And yeah, I know earlier, I was 10 or 15 minutes late to the work study, so I apologize. I was stuck in traffic, but I did come in towards the tail end of it, and one thing that I've been hearing for the past 6 months at least is that this is a Washington and a nationwide problem, and although that's true, when we discuss Marysville schools closing, we need to discuss it in a matter that it's an isolated incident, right? It's not something light to, it's not something to take lightly just because it's happening in other areas. It's still a decision that needs to be made thoughtfully and with intentionality and with transparency and with community engagement. So hopefully I can speak that into existence. Obviously, actions speak louder than words. But yeah, again, thank you all for coming out and showing how much you care about Marysville and the school district. And I say this, all the time, and it probably sounds like a broken record, but it's unfortunate that it takes kind of controversy to bring people out. I understand, but when you do come out, it lets me know how much the community members care about the school. So, so I do appreciate, regardless for what reason you come out, I still appreciate you showing up. So, thanks.
Good, Director Krebs. Cheyenne? I catch you off guard.
Oh, I'm not ready. I don't think I have that much to say. Can I go first? Can you go first?
Yeah, I'll go first and then she can. Okay. So I'll sound like a broken record and beat a dead horse, but one thing that's been consistent of what I've been speaking for throughout my time as a student board rep is lack of communication. I've said it a lot, and I haven't really seen much change, to be honest. And we need communication. Like, the plan was leaked, and if you will, or it spread through non-district communication. Non-district communication, and the district complains about rumors constantly. But when they don't properly inform the community, then that's going to happen. And that's where trust is lost. If you don't want rumors to spread, because there is some misinformation that does get spread, but you have to address that through being honest with the community and not trying to hide anything. Um, so we've said, the community, me, board members have said we need more communication, but I just haven't seen it happen. So I don't know what to do. But I guess I'll just say it one last time because it's true and it needs to happen. Um, yeah, I don't know. Okay, that's all I'll say on that. So this is my last board meeting, unfortunately. However, I know you'll miss me, but this isn't my last time being in this building. I'll still keep track of things and come back if need be. Not up here, unfortunately, obviously, but I'll still be a part of the community and be invested in the district. This has been a interesting experience. And I'm very honored and happy that I got to experience it because it's taught me a lot about how boards work, how I don't think politics is the right word, but I guess public facing decision makers. Um, and it's just been a great learning opportunity. So I don't have really any grand statement, but it's been pretty cool, I guess. That, yeah.
I still don't have much to say, but as far as communication goes, to just say it again, there's some things that even I, as doing this, there's a lot of things that I still don't hear about, and I hear it from like teachers will approach me and ask me about things, and I'll have to be like, I'll check on that. And hopefully in the oh my gosh, three other years that I'm here, I can I can see changes and maybe try my best to help. This last meeting, I worked with him and Dominic for about a year, so a year, year and a half, sure. And it's just been so, I have nice things to say. It's just been so nice to be able to work with them. We have a little group chat. They're always there to answer all of my questions. If I'm not able to come in, both of them are usually there for me if I need anything. So it's really good to work with them. And I'm really happy to see about his policy reading because going out as a senior, he's really been able to make and impact him and Dominic both. But hopefully yours will be long lasting because it's a structure that is going to be used for multiple years. And thank you for everyone that came tonight. And that's all.
Thank you to both of you. Couple comments. I know that the SBA scores should be rolling in, and I'm excited to see what those look like. That I believe we already had the high schools taken care of, and now we're looking at middle schools. So I'm really excited to see what that data shows. Also, the presentation on the financial situation, the good news is it's approved by OSPI, and that allows us to move forward with the plan. I would like to know a little bit more about some of the comments that were brought up about possible conflicts between overload and our K-3 part of that presentation. So if we could, as a board, be advised a little bit more about if that was considered and what the possible implications or impacts could be.
It was. We'll come back and talk about it in detail.
Please. And also I can't say anything different than the other board members when it comes to the discussions around closures of schools, but at this point it's a proposal, and we expect to have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people from every different part of this community, staff, even students, leadership teams, to make sure that the schools that were suggested are the proper schools that should be considered. And then lastly, I mean, we're not done with you two yet. Cheyenne, I weren't here. We didn't get a chance to present this to you. Half of Marysville School District Board of Directors and Superintendent Dr. Zachary Robbins, thank you for serving. Very much. All right, so that concludes the regular session meeting at 7:21 PM on June 3rd, 2024. We will be moving into, actually, it doesn't conclude it. We'll conclude it after our executive session, which we're moving into right now.
Recording stopped.